Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you've been following me for some time now, then you've probably noticed that I have changed my name. I changed my name recently just because I wanted to have something that really felt more authentic to me, and my intuition had been calling to me for some time, telling me to change it, and I'm really glad I did because it makes me feel a lot more comfortable now. So that's an update on my name change. But otherwise, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lacey Jane, and on this channel, I talk about spirituality and wellness and law of attraction and mental and physical health, and basically just how to align yourself to the happiest version of yourself. So today I wanted to talk about a limiting belief that recently came to light for me, and I basically had like an epiphany of some sort, and I connected this limiting belief to the roots of when it was planted in my life. And I wanted to share the story with you today and also go over some journal prompts that kind of helped me to get through this limiting belief and understand where it came from and how I came about to figure this out and have this epiphany. So recently I've been trying to understand why I have this limiting belief that always seems to come up when I'm frustrated, when I'm going through something, when I'm challenged, when something new comes up. I have this limiting belief that tells me that I'm stupid, or that I'm not smart enough, or that I'm not intelligent enough. And I've always found myself just constantly comparing my intelligence to others, like my boyfriend, people I see online, mentors that I follow. You know, I constantly am comparing myself to these people, and I'm constantly telling myself that I'm not smart enough, or I'm not as smart as they are, or I'm not capable of learning something new because I'm not on that intelligence level. And so like when I was in high school, for example, I was taking like college credit level classes. And I remember being in that class and I was like, well, yeah, I'm smart, but I'm the least smart in this room. So I'm smart, but I'm obviously way less smart than these other kids that I'm going to school with. And I always had this belief come up for me. And I've always been like, man, why do I keep telling myself this? Like over the past few years, I've been like, yeah, no, that's not true. Obviously, Lacey, you are smart. Obviously, you are intelligent. And just recently, I've been doing more research on limiting beliefs, and I've been trying to figure out, like, rack my brain, like, why do I think this? And it wasn't until recently that I just had this, like, that's so Raven psychic moment where I realized where my limiting belief came from. I remembered when that started, like the first time that I felt that way. It came from a moment in my childhood that was very traumatic for me, and this is a moment that I've remembered my entire life. It's a memory that will stick with me forever, but I never made that connection from then to my limiting belief that I have now. So it started when I was in first grade, I believe. Like kindergarten, first grade. And I remember I was in first grade because I moved to a town that was like 30 minutes away from the town that I grew up in. And for some reason, we moved back to the town that I grew up in, and I was in first grade, and we came back like in the middle of the school year. And I remember that when I went back to the school, I wasn't on the same level that everyone else was. We were like on a different curriculum back at the other school that I was in. And so I remember I honestly didn't really know a whole lot of what was going on. The teacher was at the chalkboard that day, and she had a math question on the chalkboard at the front of the room. And I remember she called on me to answer what the question was. And at this point, I was very, very shy. I was very, very quiet, and I didn't know what the answer was. I had no idea what the answer to the question was. She looked at me and she said, you are going to answer this question. And she made every single child turn around in the class and stare at me until I answered the question. She made everybody stop everything they were doing, and they had to look at me until I answered the question. And I remember I was so upset, like I started crying because, that's embarrassing for anybody, to make someone feel like they're dumb, like they have to come up with this magic answer. And I didn't know what was going on. And I remember the feeling that I had when everyone was staring. Some of them were pointing. I remember that, like that feeling, it was like a scene out of Matilda or something. Like that's what the teacher felt like for me. And I remember at the time, that was the first time that I felt like my intelligence was lower than everyone. I felt like I was stupid. I just felt ashamed of myself. I felt ashamed of my intelligence, and I felt ashamed of where I was, in my intelligence. But that's something that I never forgot. Like, it stuck with me for the rest of my life. And I never made the connection until now that when that happened to me, even though it was in first grade, like, I remember it so clearly. I even remember what I was wearing in first grade the day that that happened. And I never made the connection that that is when the seed was planted of that limiting belief. And so every time I came in contact with something that triggered that, like maybe it was a math problem that I didn't understand, or I was challenged with something new, or I felt frustrated with myself, every single time after that is when I nurtured that seed of thinking that I was stupid. Because that moment in first grade was when that was planted in me. That was the moment that I believed it. I believed that I was dumb, and I believed that, I would never learn math, or I would never understand things the way other people understood it. At the time, I'm sure that I wasn't the only one in the class that didn't understand the math question, but it felt like it at the time. Like, everyone was staring at me. I'm like, God, everybody must know this question but me. And I really wanted to share this story because I wanted to show you guys that I'm 26 years old and I'm just now addressing something that happened to me when I was in first grade. I still have my limiting beliefs that I'm working through. I'm still addressing them. I'm still figuring out where they came from. I'm still figuring out, why I think the way I do. I'm still thinking about what makes me me. And I'm still learning, and that's what we're here to do in this physical human body. Is we are here to have a physical experience where we learn and we grow and we get past these traumas and we become the best versions of ourselves. That's what we're here to do. So I really wanted to share some journal prompts to help you, kind of recognize those limiting beliefs, because when I had this epiphany, I literally went to town journaling. Like, I love to write anyway. I love to journal anyway, but writing everything out has really helped me get through it. And, these journal prompts aren't going to magically just change your life, but they will help you figure out that route, and they will help you get through these things, because there is magic happening when we question ourselves and when we ask ourselves the right questions and when we, try to find the root of why we are the way we are. And they may be triggering for you and it may be hard to get through, but I promise you it's worth it. I promise you that taking a look at your belief system is worth it, because once you start to challenge that belief system, you start to change yourself. You start to change your perspective. So the first journal question that you can ask yourself is, what is one limiting belief that you often say to yourself? Remember that your limiting beliefs like to show up when you're challenged, or you try something new, or you're frustrated at yourself, or you're frustrated in general. They like to show up when you're just about to quit, is when they like to speak to you. So some common limiting beliefs that you might find yourself saying are, I'm not good enough, or I'm too lazy, or I'll always be poor, or I don't look good enough, or pretty enough, or beautiful enough. And they don't have to be those words exactly. They don't have to be those common limiting beliefs. Basically, anything that starts on a negative note is something that's a limiting belief about yourself. So the next journal prompt is, when was the first time that I felt this limiting belief? Now, the first time that you try to pinpoint this limiting belief, it's going to be difficult, because I'm sure there are a lot of times when this limiting belief has come up for you, but it can be just either a dump of some of the most traumatizing moments or the most prominent moments that stick out for you, or just, every time you've said this limiting belief to yourself, or times that you notice that it comes up within you. It doesn't really matter how you get there. It just matters that you kind of organize your thoughts out so that you can dump everything down and then go through them from there. Now, if you don't pinpoint the very first time, if you don't make that connection immediately, it's totally okay, because it didn't happen immediately for me either. Like, it took me a lot of time to get to it. And you can write out all of the times that you felt that limiting belief and then just leave the page as it is and take a break, because I promise you it will come to you. And it could come to you when you're in the shower, or when you're washing dishes, or when you're taking a walk, or you're exercising. It will come to you sometime, but I promise you it will show up, and you'll have that aha moment. You'll have that connection moment. It could be today, or it could be a week from now, but you will come to it. So don't put so much pressure on you to think that you have to do it now and you have to figure it out now, because It's not about that. It's just about getting everything out on paper now so that you can make more room for your brain to go through the extra layers, basically. And if you do find the pinpoint of the root of when that limiting belief was planted, make sure that you write the feelings that you had at the time. What thoughts came up for you at the time? How did you feel? So the next journal prompt that you can ask yourself is, when I notice this limiting belief speaking to me, what is actually happening? So for example, when I notice my limiting belief coming up, I have to stop and I have to ask myself, what is actually happening here? Am I actually stupid, or am I letting this limiting belief predetermine the outcome? Am I actually not intelligent, or am I just too lazy enough to do the research on this new subject that I don't know anything about? You know, am I hopeless, or is everything figure-outable? So another example would be like if you found yourself saying something along the lines of, I don't have the body that is worthy to wear a bikini, you have to stop yourself in the middle of that thought and ask yourself, okay, what is going on here? Do I actually physically have a body that cannot wear a bikini? Or did somewhere along the line someone tell me some dumbass shit that wasn't true, and I decided to believe it, and I decided to nurture that limiting belief every single time I came in contact with an article of clothing that showed a little skin? You know, what is actually going on here? And you know, this is the part where you start to separate yourself from that limiting belief. It's like you're stepping outside of your body, you're assessing the situation, and then you're thinking before you decide to react. This one might not even be that long of a prompt, but it is teaching you to stop and to assess the situation and to remember that you can think before you decide to react, because you are not that limiting belief. You are not determined by that limiting belief. The next journal prompt I have for you is, what would my life look like if I choose to believe that limiting belief? And alternately, what would my life look like if I choose not to believe that limiting belief? So this means that, you know, if I choose to believe that limiting belief, what does that make me? What type of person does that make me become? Does that mean that I'm not the person that pursues their goals, or I don't pursue my goals unless they're small enough? Does that mean that I don't try new things? Does that mean that I don't have confidence in myself? You know, what does that mean if I choose to give into that belief? And then on the other side of that, what does the version of you look like that chooses not to believe in your limiting beliefs? Does that mean that you have more confidence in yourself? Does that mean that you step outside of your comfort zone? Does that mean that you try new things to see what you're capable of? Or maybe that you're aligning yourself to your higher self? What does that version of you that takes no shit look like? For me, this means that, you know, I allow myself to fail. I allow myself to try new things because I understand that everything new that comes to me is going to take some time. Everything that I want to try, everything that I want to venture out into, it's not going to immediately happen overnight. It's not going to come easy because it's something new, and new things are difficult for us. It also means that I trust my thought process and I trust my intelligence because I know I'm smart and I respect the way that I learn new things. So the next journal prompt that you can do for yourself is replace your limiting belief with an empowering belief. So I spoke a little bit about this in my last video on confidence, which I will recommend you guys watch if you are trying to work through your limiting beliefs, because your limiting beliefs and your confidence go hand in hand. Replacing a limiting belief with an empowering one is basically your way of creating a phrase or creating a mantra that you can always go back to when that limiting belief arises in you. It's basically your way of having a rebuttal for that limiting belief. When your limiting belief decides to talk shit to you, what are you gonna say back? So if you find yourself saying that I'm always a failure, you can learn to replace that with my success is inevitable. Or maybe you want to write or draw or something like that, and you always tell yourself that you're not good at drawing. You can replace that limiting belief with every single time that I draw, I get better and better and better. And when you're writing this empowering belief, make sure that you write why you believe that empowering belief is true. So if you think that you get better and better and better each time you draw, maybe your why is because I have patience in myself, because I know that I have an infinite amount of potential. And writing out the why for your empowering belief is basically setting an entire new foundation for the beliefs about yourself. It's pulling out the old roots of that limiting belief and replacing it with new soil and new fertilizer so that you can truly nurture and thrive with this new empowering belief about yourself. And when you plant this new empowering belief in your mind, you start to create a new reality for yourself. Because when you have limiting beliefs and when you give in to them, you can't manifest the life that you desire. And you deserve the life that you desire. And I will tell you right now that that limiting belief I had about my intelligence literally kept me from things. It kept me from even looking at numbers without feeling like a constant source of anxiety. It kept me from accepting jobs that I was actually offered because I told myself that I wouldn't do good in that job because I wasn't good with numbers. And this was a job that I was offered. I love myself. And you know that you have an infinite amount of potential. I can't say that enough. The second that you decide to stand up for yourself and the second that you decide to talk back to that limiting belief, you are actually quantum jumping. You are quantum jumping from the current reality that you have right now to whatever it is that your ideal reality is. Because in your ideal reality, that version of you doesn't believe in limiting beliefs. That version of you doesn't let themselves be taken over and defined by what their limiting belief is. These are just journal prompts, but if you really give yourself the time and the energy to dive deep into your limiting beliefs and find that root and pull it out, then you will see a change. But remember that you can't physically see change in your environment. You can't physically see everything changing, but when you start to take that step, the universe is working behind the scenes for you. The universe has your back. But when you decide to take that leap, everything in the universe is conspiring to help you. Everything in the universe is conspiring to get you there, even though you can't physically see it. Thank you guys so much for giving me your time and your energy today, and I hope that you gained something of value that you can take with you here today from this video. I would really, really love it if you guys commented an empowering belief about yourself in the comments below so that we can keep like a trail of high vibe comments going, and we can keep empowering each other and empowering ourselves and sending out more good energy into the universe. And if you liked anything that I said, if you resonated with anything, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to my channel and click that notification button so that you can be the first person to see this place. And remember to talk to your plants today because they are growing just like you and they need your love and attention very, very badly. I hope that you guys have an amazing day, and I will see you guys again very, 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 very soon.